it already?
Is she there? No, it's not. Is it working? Ah, yes. I think it's working. But first of all, I have to check the microphone. Let me go first. Hold just a second, please. Good morning. But I hope it's working today. It's a little bit. I am doing new things, which is first time I'm working. So I have to ask you if you hear me. Hold just a second. Hello, do you think this microphone working? Is anybody? Max, good morning. Do you hear my sound? Do you hear my voice? I do it again. Hello, do you hear my voice? Hello, hello. Good morning, everybody. Okay. Anju, good morning. But seems like working. But it's soft. Working, but soft. Okay. Hold it. I thought so. Let me check. What? Sure. Here, this one. Is this sounds better? Hold just a second. Hello, hello. This is the sound. My voice. What do you think? A bit better. Okay, we'll see if after Charlie comes back. I mean, not comes back. Uh, Good morning, everybody. We doing live stream live, really live from New York City. Luckily, Charlie safely back last Friday. I mean, of course, it's safe. Now we are trying something new. That's why it took a little long to start. I hope it's gonna be works okay, but maybe the mic is too small. Then how about this way? A little bit bigger. Okay. I hope he's back here soon. Okay. I'll be back. Just enjoy the back view. Right. You just wait until Charlie gets in here. Just a minute, please. Okay. I need some coffee. Okay, let me try the microphone again. Hello, hello. Kind of. Okay, he's here. Maybe it's better to check.
Check his way?
Yeah.
Shall we go?
Yeah,
Shall we
you should go. Okay. I'll let me
I can hold it.
Okay, can you get in through here?
Maybe we move this a little bit. Wow. Okay. So the only thing is I need a music stand to put this. I don't have.
I'll be back.
Yeah, so sorry. We are totally disorganized. No, in fact, I'm the only one who's totally disorganized. I'm totally disorganized. I apologize. I'm always apologizing.
You sit down.
I'm
your
disorganized.
face is not there.
I know.
Everybody looking at your button of the shirts.
Okay, my button. Am I buttoned or am I unbuttoned? Hopefully I'm buttoned. Yeah. Okay. Now.
Hold on.
Now I'm totally.
No one's
I know. Now one's. Don't worry.
Everybody watching your iPad.
I know.
Down a little more.
How about this?
That's good.
Okay. Wow.
Okay. Talk?
Yes, there's so much to talk about. Okay. Well, is everything more or less set up now? We have a different configuration of everything, including a different microphone, different lighting setup, everything here, and I feel totally lost. Anyway, hello everyone. Hi, here. I'm back in New York, following, as I mentioned, my non-adventure in Taiwan. This will be, actually tonight, I guess, will be a week since I've actually returned. And what's happening?
Talk.
Yeah? Is it too soft?
It's so soft talk, but talk.
Yeah, okay. But you can turn it up from there.
I did already.
Oh, really? I'm sorry. Oh, God. Okay, everyone. You think, is this better?
I'm checking it now.
Okay.
You don't need to worry about it. You can't hear it because I have to do it.
I know. I can't hear anything. I can't see anything.
Yeah, so then you don't
I'm totally in the dark, even though it's light out.
Sorry.
Oh gosh.
Morning
Okay.
fight.
So as I said, I'm back 1 week. Today would have been my first concert there in Taiwan, but Taiwan is still suffering from the surge of the virus, and in fact, it is also experiencing a very, very serious drought, which has led to actually water rationing. It is, I think all of a sudden this little country, sort of everything happened to it. It's terrible because it's really such a wonderful place. I do, anyway, I've been asked several times, and I do hope I can come back as soon as everything turns more or less to normal, and that, of course, depends not only on Taiwan, but on the whole world. There was a disturbing article in the New York Times today that we may be facing the most serious period of the pandemic because of the new variants which are loose in the world. Let's hope not. The United States, because of the big push to vaccination is now doing fairly well, and where I am in New York City, everything seems to be opening up. Let's hope that it will remain that way or continue to open up, and we will not actually find that we have to close again. Oh, that, it's enough. I think this more than 1 year that we've been this has really cost a tremendous amount of. Oh, is that a little better? Oh, we have more light. Yeah. Okay, good. It's been traumatic for everyone. So as I came back, I found there's really too much in a certain way to talk about. And so, and I'm so totally disorganized, so I'm going to do very little today, I think. We'll see how it turns out. Anyway, of course, we have all these very serious problems, catastrophes all over the world, wars, etc., etc. But I want to simply talk about mostly the economy, and it's focused on the United States now. Because when I came back, I found something very interesting, that the country is sort of sliding back to a version of normal, which means that perhaps, in fact, nothing will change, finally. We do have this very serious problems with the Republicans actually gerrymandering votes and actually, trying to limit the possibilities to vote, and that, et cetera, et cetera. But what I want to talk about has to do with the program of the current administration, Joe Biden's presidency, and because is still called a transformative president. Now, the question is, as we look at it now, is that actually the case? And there was very good, very informative article by Matt Taibbi, who is an economic correspondent, very interesting fellow, about exactly this. Now, last Friday, for instance, the Washington Post came out that the Biden administration's new budget plan would not contain a host of key ideas which he proposed on the campaign trail, which includes public health care option, raising the estate tax, to forgiveness of student debt, etc., etc. The idea to really ensure at least 97% of Americans, I'm talking about health insurance actually, and the question is actually the administration beginning to show its true inclinations, or you can say its true colors, or is this a reaction to this pushback, this sort of blowback, we can say, from the Republicans, and a kind of fear that, well, if things do not work out, that perhaps the next election will not turn out so well for Democrats. And of course, that's probably true. However, I think the problem is that, how should I say it? That it's very depressing. It's very that the problem is, in responding to this kind of pressure, you basically ensure the fact that you lose. Okay, so that's just putting it in a nutshell. And what we see now, all of a sudden, because there is a certain amount of inflation, so-called, in the United States, that people all of a sudden are scared that, we're going to have runaway inflation, and the economy is going to, what they call, overheat. Of course, this is total nonsense. And there's a big question of the deficit. This has come back. And I don't understand why everything just goes back to what it used to be. I'm going to talk more about this, in fact. But this whole idea of the deficit, which I talked about much earlier, about the misunderstanding, the lack of, in a certain way, insight in actually understanding what the deficit is, and the fact that a public deficit is actually a private gain, in a way. So then, in other words, if the government spends money, who actually gets the money are the people who are in the country, basically. That's the way it works. And I just wanted to go down a list of correlation between when the debt was paid down in the United States and the beginning of depressions. Okay, so we start, the debt was paid down first in 1817 to 1821. That's Jackson's presidency. And the percentage decline in debt was 29%. And in 1819, though, the country began to experience a very serious depression. Okay, now, 1823 to 1836. This was Jackson's. I'm sorry. This is the percentage of decline in debt was 100%. In 1837, the country began to experience a very serious depression. So then, 1867 to 1873, the decline in debt was 27%. 1873, depression. 1880 to 1893, there was a decline in debt, 57%. In other words, this is all increase in debt, and sort of the idea that the government has to move to a surplus rather than a deficit. Okay, so the decline in debt was 57%, 1880 to 1893. 1893, very serious depression. I think I skipped, right? That was actually 1880 to 1893. You see, I'm very out of it today. The decline in debt was 57%, and this very serious depression started in 1893. Now, there was also a big decline in debt between 1920 and 1930. This is the Roaring Twenties, and what happened in 1929? You had the actual stock market crash, the bank runs, and the beginning of a huge depression, which the world actually experienced and was only able to come out of because, in fact, of the incredible amount of deficit spending that the Second World War required. It's awful. So, and then we keep going, and then you have later on you have the Clinton surplus, which then ended up starting in 2001 and then going to 2008. This is, we went into what we call recession, and certain measures were taken so it didn't turn into a complete depression. But anyway, it is 100% that actually the decrease in government spending is correlated with depressions or recessions following that decrease in spending. Now, you would think that these very smart people, so-called, these professionals, would see this and would understand, in fact, that this is the problem. And another problem we have is that generally the Republicans always are crying about deficits, yet in every Republican administration the deficit begins to soar, and then when the Democrats they are pushed into actually somehow limiting that deficit, then we have a depression, and what happens? Okay, so I wonder whether there is actual misplaced concern which creates these issues, or is there something more nefarious about this? But in any case, I think the what's happening now with the administration, and still there's a decent stimulus, etc., but what is beginning to happen, what we see beginning to happen now, actually maybe does not bode well for the future of the United States. And if the future of the United States is a little bit in danger, that means the whole future of the world, which is unfortunate, but it is, I think, the case. Okay, now, what else do I want? I have all of this. You see, okay, I just explain a little more about this. And again, what the surpluses do, if the government surplus actually takes wealth away from the economy of the country, in other words, the people, and it leaves the people actually with less ability to do things like buy goods, do things like pay for school, do things like in the United States pay medical bills, etc., etc. And this is something that everyone should understand. It's very simple. That if you take money from one place and put it to another place, then that one place that doesn't have the money anymore has problems. Okay. So this is that's one thing. I also see this kind of motion backwards now, because here we have the United States actually posturing against contra, I should say, China and contra Russia. Now, I don't say anything about whether this is really correct, whether this is not correct. That's a whole different issue. But the fact that this is happening now, there's a kind of return, in a way, to what looks like could be a Cold War. It's also very, very disturbing. Now, in April 28th, of course, this was a while ago, but Biden addressed the problem of China. You see, and here he said, we are in competition with China and other countries to win the 21st century. This is also a problem. This is, again, this old concept of American so-called exceptionalism, that we must win. That they said we're at a great inflection point in history. He vowed to make sure every nation plays by the same rules in the global economy, including China. Well, does that include the United States? That's an interesting question. And stand up to unfair trade practices that undercut American workers. Now, this is all very true, but who actually was the instigator of these unfair trade practices? That we have it's beginning of the sort of the global economy, which actually was very much an American push. Okay, now Russia, of course, is in the news a lot, and most recently, that's the hacking of by Russia, perhaps the Russian intelligence agency. They don't quite know exactly what it is. Right now is. I read that hackers linked to the Russian main intelligence agency surreptitiously seized an email system used by the State Department's International Aid Agency to burrow into the computer networks of human rights groups. Now, this is, of course, very disturbing, and comes just a little while before this. The summit between Biden and Putin in Geneva is supposed to take place. Now, one thing also is that there was a treaty between Russia and the United States. It's actually an old treaty, which called the Open Skies Treaty, which was an agreement to ensure that both the United States and Russia could monitor each other's military movements, so-called. The Trump administration actually backed out of the agreement, and Biden actually also has backed out of the agreement. Again, I don't voice any kind of opinion about this. I'm not informed well enough to do that. But the fact that everything looks like it's actually returning to that we are moving backwards rather than forwards is something that I see so clearly. Also, now, even though the present administration pledged originally to aggressively cut pollution from fossil fuels, the administration now this month has taken steps defending 3 big oil and gas projects, which will... Ooh, what's happening out there? That's not one of those projects, of course. But these 3 big oil and gas projects, which will guarantee drilling and burning of oil and gas for actually several decades to come, it seems like. So, once again, we move backwards. Now, this motion backwards in terms of climate change is something which can lead to catastrophe actually rather quickly. Oh, gosh. Now, there is motion forward in a sort of very devious and dangerous way. Again, there's so much danger still happening. And this is an article, again, from the New York Times, where they say 15% of Americans actually are either followers or sympathizers with the QAnon, what I would call cult. And it's a poll that was released actually today, I guess, by the Public Religion Research Institute and Interfaith Youth Corps, which found that this 15% of Americans say they think that the levers of power, as the article mentioned, are controlled by a cabal of Satan-worshipping pedophiles, which is the core belief of QAnon supporters. This is absolute nuts. These are you have these Satan-worshipping pedophiles are so hidden. They are so cunning that not only can you never find them, but you cannot find their victims. It's just unbelievable. And in that same poll, they found out that same 15% share the statement that American patriots, as they say, may have to resort to violence to depose the pedophiles and restore the country's rightful order. Of course, the pedophiles are all the people who they simply don't like. It is really, really crazy. Oh, there's so much more to do with this. All these days. There, I see someone just very sleepy in the background there. Because I'm just talking all this stuff. Okay, so I just move on to a few things which are a little bit different. And the first has to do with giraffes. And I originally saw on an airplane a few years ago about how giraffes have solved the problem of blood pressure. And of course, they have these huge necks. So just if we had a neck like that, with the way our bodies are built, and we actually moved from down to up, we would probably faint or die, actually. And it's what's said here that giraffes have sky-high blood pressure because their sky-high heads, that is, in adults, rise about 6 meters above the ground. It's a long way for the heart to pump, and to have a blood pressure of like 110 over 70 or whatever, 120 over 80, that's normal for many mammals, not only people. Giraffes, on the contrary, need a blood pressure of about 220 over 180. But giraffes are totally fine with this. And the reason for that is the way both the heart and actually the arteries can actually modulate the pressure depending on where the neck is, whether it's up or down or how it's moving. It's absolutely fascinating, and has already seen benefits in people studying the problem of when let's say you have a supersonic aircraft goes above the sound barrier, and the problem of that people can actually often sort of pass out, but in making suits which mimic the way that the giraffes control their blood pressure actually eliminates that possibility, and may in fact lead to new and improved treatments for our own blood pressure. That's one interesting thing. I have a few, and I just go through them quickly. Now this is a while ago actually, but it's only fairly recently that the news about this actually became sort of public knowledge. There's an ocean drilling project. This is back in 2010, so this is actually 11 years ago. It sailed into what's called the South Pacific Gyre, which is basically a marine desert. It's near the center of that gyre is what is called the oceanic pole of inaccessibility. And also, it's the South Pacific garbage patch, so that a lot of microplastic particles sort of end up accumulating there. Okay. But they drilled all the way down through that, down to the very bottom, and picked from there, removed some cores of the sediment which is down there, and what scientists found were bacteria. Whoa, what was that? Yeah. Bacteria which were 100 million years old, and they were able to very quickly resuscitate these bacteria. So they came about and like they woke up from their sleep and as if nothing happened. It's very remarkable. And it's something that I will talk about maybe next week in more general terms. But it's this 100-million-year-old bacteria. First of all, it's scientifically, of course, so interesting. Now, also, we have to just worry that this 100-million-year-old bacteria is not the kind of bacteria which will actually do something to us. Now, there's also have been a study of subway systems throughout the world, and the study was actually taking, swabs from hand rests, etc., from these subways, and finding more than 50 strains of bacteria which were completely unknown. And also a kind of general, I would say, confluence of bacteria types. Whether the subway was in New York or in London or in Paris or in Asia somewhere. Very, very interesting. Also viruses, they found. Why am I saying all of this? I have no idea. But one thing that I took away from that, and that's something I had no idea about, but actually it makes perfect sense, that some of these bacteria, at least, were bacteria who ate viruses. Now, that is very nice. These are our friends. Okay. Two more little details, sort of this kind of trivia that after all this dire news that I talk about, has to do with the slime mold. And I was going to show a picture, but I think perhaps I won't. What's that? Don't? No, but it's fascinating, though, because the slime molds, they have no brain, they have no nervous system, yet they can solve problems like finding the shortest way through a maze. And I actually talked about that and showed that a while ago. That's why perhaps I won't show this again. But what is fascinating is that they can remember food sites. This is something that has no brain, no nervous system, and yet can remember where there was delicious morsels of food for that slime mold, I guess. It is absolutely fascinating. And the way they remember is very, very interesting, because they when they come in contact with the food source, well, at least actually I should say the slime molds are basically a collection of tubes in a way. Now, so the substance will soften the tube of the network's sort of gel-like wall that way. This is the slime mold walls, making them wider and having their internal pressure be less. Now, the slime mold moves by expanding along wider tubes and moving away from narrower tubes. So, the enlarged tubes actually effectively record past food locations. It's very, very interesting. That's right. Okay, now final one has to do with fungi. I don't even know. I know how to pronounce fungus, but I don't know how to pronounce the plural all of a sudden. And this has to do with making fabrics out of fungus. And they say biofabrication companies, as I was reading. This is something that I read about in the Smithsonian. They say are increasingly excited about the prospects of using fungi. Someone should tell me how I should pronounce that. I don't know what's happening to my brain now. But to produce sturdy, sustainable alternatives to plastic and to leather. Now, what is more interesting is that indigenous Americans, in other words, what we used to call Indians, that's Native Americans, indigenous Americans, were already making what we call microtextiles, that's textiles made from fungus, at least a century ago, and probably much longer than that. The study was published in a journal called Mycologia, and confirmed that there are two little, what they call wall pockets that they put on the wall, and you can put different stuff in them. Were crafted by a Tlingit woman that's in Alaska. It's one of the Northwest indigenous American populations in 1903, and that wall pocket was made out of a fungus. That's and there's also been microtextile use, as it was reported in Europe in ancient times, basically. So we are, in a way, going back to something which was perhaps common centuries ago. Now that's an interesting part of going back, and I just should mention now, finally, that this is sort of maybe not going back, but maybe it is going back. But I decided today, just because one of my great treasures in life is coffee. I decided to wear these clothes. This is a shirt and this pants. I don't know if you can see the pants at all, but maybe we'll eventually. They're both made out of coffee grounds, already brewed coffee grounds. So I have coffee inside of me and outside of me. And that's actually quite interesting. That's way. Okay, I think I did enough of that. And I will turn now to what I wanted to talk about. And I was hoping to talk about while I was still in Taiwan and had this microphone meltdown issue. So I wasn't able to actually record what I wanted to record. And that has to do with, let me put this away, because now I don't need this anymore, I think, at least. I'll put this here. I have a feeling. Oh, okay, I'll leave that there. And I don't know, can you see my pants made out of coffee? No? Yeah. Anyway, there's a whole line of products now made from coffee grounds. So perhaps we should all not throw away our coffee grounds after making our delicious drinks. And we can send them and have clothing made from them, so they will come back to us. Okay. So to go back to the idea of technique and form, I just wanted to show what should I say, how the motion of the hands is controlled, whether you're playing quickly or slowly. I started that, and I gave a little hint of that last time, and I actually had recorded several videos, which then everything sort of blew up, and I wasn't able to upload them anywhere, etc., etc. So I will do this today, and we have one video which I'd like to show first now, and that's something I did record last night, and what I'm doing is the original video is in tempo with sound, but we found, or at least I found, that if you actually slow the video down too much, the sound begins to distort more and more. It's not worthwhile. So then we'll show, is it 8 times slower? I think, yeah. The same video, but without sound. But you can at least see, we focus both times on the fingers to actually show the motion of fingers and how they work together. And hopefully that will be kind of interesting. And then I will do a little more with this as well. So, can we do this now? Yeah. But I don't think can I go over there and see it? Perhaps? No. Yeah? So I'm going to move out of range here. Wow! sorry. I almost dropped the microphone that I'm using now. But here we go. I go out here. Because I actually don't know what this looks like. Okay. Can we try?
next one, right?
Okay, yeah, and here is slow motion, 8 times slower, and let's see if there's anything interesting about this. Oh, am I? Ah.
It's okay, it's okay.
Yeah, no, I'm okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so are you done? May I talk now?
You can talk.
Yeah. Okay. So I have no idea how interesting this is. I will do a little more with the natural slowing down. Perhaps it was a little too slow. It sort of reminded me of a slime mold kind of motion. That way. But anyway, at least what you can see is how the motion involves very slight, always rotation of the hand and is very controlled in terms of how you move all the fingers up and down in one direction at a time. So in other words, you don't move this hand down and this hand up, this hand down, this hand up that way, this way, but it works in very sort of controlled way. And plus the fingers are here, and in fact you see because it's going so quickly that the fingers are rather close to the clarinet. Okay. While when I demonstrate now a little bit, I'll show how the difference when you're playing one tempo or another will simply be a difference of, in fact, the actual degree of motion of the fingers. In this way. So I have two things in mind, but maybe I just do one at least. But I try that. I have to get my clarinet out. And let me move this over here, perhaps. And can you see my coffee pants now?
No.
No? Anyway, that's okay. It's not interesting. And I have a reed on this clarinet. Anyway, I have to see. Is this the right instrument? Yeah, that is. It is. Ah!
You didn't play.
What's that? We didn't play, so we have to see what it's like when we play. Is it too? You can. Does that work? All right. Okay, so what I wanted to do is just a little bit of Rigoletto. I did that little other bit of Rigoletto, and the reason I'm using Rigoletto is that I've had a few students who played this recently for me, and they all had certain trouble, which I think because they didn't feel emotion in, I don't know, what should I say, an organic way? That's something I don't really like to say, but perhaps it's necessary. So, now, do you think I can play it all? That's an interesting question, too. Anyway, so let's say, if we start here, it seems like this has a little bit of a squeak, right? Because I didn't put it the right way. Just back here, it's again sort of business as usual, like the past. Just this year, though. Is it over recording? No? Okay, so this little passage here, and I sort of played it more or less okay. But the question is, it's very fast, and if I slow it down myself, this is what I believe I'm actually doing. And I will always play myself first in slow motion using form of the hands, which I will speak a little bit more about, which then I just apply when I play quickly. So here and here. So what's very important there is that my hands are moving with the phrase up. That way. And not something like that, or this way. Even here. So I've talked about this before, but I'm showing it now exactly. So I feel like the right hand actually pushes the left hand up. So you can see how that motion goes as if the two hands are really one. I've said that a lot that way, that we sort of feel that the hands are connected this way. Then this is very important, that I will always anticipate the little fingers when I'm playing. So in this passage, there. There. And then I anticipate this too here. So I'm off to do, so that I'm moving to that B, because that we have in the clarinet concert A, as I played. So that's very much similar to like walking. Is this okay? Is it, uh-oh. Okay. So here, is that way. And then if you feel that, this, all of that becomes actually quite easy, and there's sort of no limit almost to the speed you can play. This clarinet is a sort of nice, easy instrument, can be. And that motion, this kind of wave motion, you just speed up but keep the same way. So it's almost like I'm just going whoa. And because of that, you can move at any speed that you would like to move at. And I think I'm playing a little too fast as usual. I try not to in real life. Then here, of course, the chromatic scale is interesting. That first of all, personally, I almost never use this here. Okay, and again, my apologies to people who are not clarinetists who happen to be watching. These past few weeks, I've been really focusing very much on clarinet-specific technique, although a lot of things, like in fact this wave motion, is something which is applicable to any kind of instrument that you're playing that uses kind of manual dexterity. So now, this if I play with this finger, first we think about it, people say that, well, you keep it in one hand. That first of all, you're moving in a very weird way, and you can alternate do. If you do this, you can do that. Can you see it? Yeah? But it doesn't feel so good. Our bodies are not really meant so much to do this. So that, as soon as you do that, you feel a lot better. You see, so this motion here, and especially on French instruments, where the distance between these holes is not as great as in German instruments, so this ends up being very close together like that. So you're actually doing that motion. Then also, we think about what it means for this little finger here, which is in a certain way the finger which is the most trouble because it's connected to the other, so it doesn't really move by itself well. And if we're playing a chromatic scale, let's say we go up to here, then here we actually play with that finger there, 1. Then here we're still using that, 2. Then you lift it, 3. Then you press it, 4. Then you press again, 5. So this has actually 5 motions. Is it not so good? Yeah. There are 5 motions which this finger has to make. So this finger is doing a lot of work. That way. Now, if you use this little thing here, which I think was a very big innovation when it actually came about on the clarinet, which was actually 1839, that there, this finger is a 1, 2, 3 only, using 3 motions, without this other kind of lateral movement that have to go that goes that way. So I'll play. Now going on, a lot of people play that way as well. In other words, they'll play. Well, I can't even do it. And that's what it is. I'm having a brain problem all of a sudden. But it's because I don't want to do it. And sometimes I will use this fingering so that maybe 50% of the time I'll use that in Debussy, for instance. But basically, if a chromatic scale, and I've talked about it before, but I do that, and here there's a kind of just motion of the hand which goes this way. So in fact, if I'm going to play this, I don't move these fingers at all. They're just like that. I'm kind of, with my double jointedness, they actually look like that. Kind of nice. Was it 2 down? Is this better? Yeah? Okay. So, look at it again. Maybe I go this way. This way? No. Is that right? Yeah? So then, just even that. You can have great control over that. You just need the proper distance. If it's too great, it doesn't work. If it's too slow, it doesn't work. So you find the great that way. And again, you have great control. Or something like that. I didn't bother doing the whole of the Flight of the Bumblebee. I thought that when we slow it down, it would just be interminable, still be going on. So we just did the end of it, but you get a little taste of this. And here, you see, so it's this kind of motion is happening with the whole hand. So I'm not even, and I'm virtually not moving these two fingers. It's rather interesting. Then going on, again I do that here. And one other thing I do always, if I'm playing a chromatic scale, I will never play this way. Well, you know, maybe there's one case where I feel I should, but basically I never play that way. Can you see that? No? Uh-huh. Let's do this again. Okay. You have to look at the little finger. Okay. I will play this way. Can you see now? Okay, that's good. And the reason for that is twofold. First of all, that this motion, and then this finger here becomes tight because you're already moving that way. Yeah. So here, da da dee da da, this is much more fluid and oh, I'm sorry, that's what I'm supposed to do. If you move these two fingers together, it's easier than if you try to move one finger this way. So that way. And then I'm basically just slow motion. That way. Going this.
Make sure to never ever use pinky for C sharp, please.
And well, that's another question. Don't use pinky for C sharp because it's not quite a quarter tone, but at least a sixth of a tone too sharp. Now the other thing though is that gives a much better, on pretty much all clarinets, a much better progression of half steps than if you actually use that. Another thing though is quite often I don't use it at all. There, another way. That way. Because if you're playing a quick passage, you basically don't need it for this. And I will use this if I'm going to stop on the note, and especially if I'm going to stop on the note and it is something which has dramatic effect. So, you know, it's and I will, if I stop on it that way and I want then I will use it because it gives it more brightness to the sound, etc., etc. Okay, so this is basically all you need to know about playing the clarinet. I mean, pretty much so. So that you feel this wave coming. But there is another point which has to do with how you actually manipulate the hand, how you feel in the hand, I should not manipulate, but how you feel in order to create this wave. And you need to feel that both hands are always moving. So if I play this here, and I've mentioned this before, how this finger in the left hand, you see it? Yeah, that this finger in the left hand is the bridge between the two hands. That creates the connection in our brains, which allows us to control the motion from one hand to the other in a very, what should I say? In fact, in a very nice way, whatever. So here, I'm actually, when I'm playing, I start by squeezing. And there's always the squeeze. And remember that from way before when I did use the sponge. So I play very slowly again. It's a squeeze. And here I'm squeezing again, especially the left hand. And as I move up here, I squeeze more. I don't know if it's actually visible that I'm squeezing. Just try take a look, see if it is. And the difference would be this. Or with the squeeze, there. So what should we do? One more time? There's a squeeze. You can sort of see it. And then as I go up into the left hand, it's the right hand which actually controls the left hand. So there's a squeeze, but this anyway I feel this way. Then the next one. And not that way. So that enables that's which again is much too fast, and I just do it because just to show that you can play incredibly fast, but it's not something I would actually perhaps even prefer for myself. Okay, so this is the basic elements of form when you play the clarinet. It's this way, and again you can see the rotation, especially to the little fingers. Now I mentioned one more thing, and then I will just go on, I think, to what I wanted at the end to do. And that has to do with positioning of the hands as well. And I think that I mentioned this before, but I'm not exactly sure if I did or not. There's too much stuff that's gone by. But if we play, for instance, C major, the hand is straight ahead. And here, you see I anticipate, but it's straight ahead. That way. The same goes for F major. Now, if I play, for instance, D major, which I will generally play going to the right here, the hand actually turns this way. And then going back down, I turn that way because I'm playing. See, it depends on where the little fingers and when they actually move. That way. If I play A flat, for instance, the clarinet actually turns this way. At least for me, it does, because I play C, D flat, C, D flat. If I play E major, I know, hold it. Because of that, it turns this way. And then here it turns back. Now I say all of this because I constantly get comments from people, clarinet players, I guess I should say. They are people, of course. It says that, well, no, the clarinet moves. I should not move. That's absolute nonsense. Let it move and then feel how it moves this way. And of course, you're not going to move the clarinet this way so that the this way. It's a subtle motion, but it is there. Okay, now what I want to do at the end, is just to play for you a bit of another performance of mine. Last piece was Corleano, and this is another piece which is very close to me. Let me put this down. I was going to explain about it, but I think I don't need to. How about the technique works? But what should I do? Should I play only one movement? Yeah, so I will try. Hopefully this will work, and we do this in the old-fashioned way, where we use our thing. And hopefully it all works out okay. So this is Jean Francaise Concerto.
Jean Français.
That's right. And this is a piece which also I have a long history about, and plus a wonderful correspondence with Francaise about this piece, where he actually wrote to me a few times, says, "Oh, how is our concerto doing?" What happened? Is it sort of working? Let me do this. Okay. So I try this in the old way. And we'll just play the fourth movement. And perhaps another time I'll have that. Put in Bluetooth. Let's see if that will work. Let's try this here. Yeah, this should be okay. Yeah, this is working. So hopefully this will work. And this is the fourth movement of the Francaise Concerto. Simply because you can imagine, it's not a video unfortunately, but you can imagine how the motion of the hands actually create a very flowing sort of technical performance, I would say. Okay, here we go. Let's see. Well, that's that. So, everyone, take care, be well, and despite all the gloom that I sort of spout out in the beginning of these sessions, stay optimistic. I try it myself. Bye-bye.